Thanks, Keith. Okay, hope you can all see me. Okay, so for today's webinar, we're going to cover a fairly broad agenda. But first, we're going to start by examining the impact of COVID and the pandemic globally on the hardest hit industry sectors. And then we're going to have a look at how normal working life has been affected and the challenges that now face business in three key areas, particularly business performance, workplace closures, and manufacturing disruption. To address these challenges, we'll start by inviting our partners, HTC. Brett is with us today, who will share their insights into how the impact has led to increased adoption of VR and is now supporting new business processes that are already bringing significant value through new ways of working virtually. This is what we're starting to call now the new normal. We then will be presenting how Virtalis delivers these opportunities with fully integrated solutions combining our unique software and state-of-the-art hardware from our partners such as HTC to help our customers to address the challenges and to emerge from the COVID pandemic stronger and more productive than ever. Finally, we'll present a call to action and give you a chance to ask some questions in the Q&A session at the end. Before we start, however, I'd just like to first quickly introduce Virtalis as a company for those of you who are unfamiliar with us. Over the last 25 years, Virtalis has become the leading VR XR provider. Virtalis supports vast enterprises, big companies, many making better decisions, delivering faster results, winning more business, and accurately understanding how to work with VR while reducing costs and risk across the board. Industry leaders like BAE Systems, Raytheon, Vesta, and Rolls-Royce trust their most complex visualization products to run on our Virtalis solutions. Our mission is to bring effortless visualization into any conversation at an enterprise scale. We know that the use of VR, AR, and XR more generally helps organizations to create competitive advantage, and there is no more effective way to get people from different disciplines to achieve a common understanding. So we believe that this way of working should be available to all to provide a safer and more efficient workspace, and this at enterprise scale, which means being able to handle the size and complexity of global organizations and networks. So let's start now, and let's move on to the main topic of today's webinar, the COVID pandemic. I can almost hear the groan when we mention this word once more. It has triggered what we already now see as possibly the deepest economic recession in nearly a century. It's threatened health, it's disrupted economies worldwide, and it's cast a very dark shadow over almost every aspect of our lives since it was first identified in Wuhan, in China, in December 2019. And although we hear about the virus every day in the news and on television, you can see here some of the latest figures, and they are shocking. 1.5 million people, this is the number of people who've died from the virus to date. 65 million, this is the current estimate of people worldwide who've been infected by the virus in just less than 12 months. And 4.3 might not sound like a big number, but this is the estimated decrease in global gross domestic product as a result of the pandemic, and it equates to over $4 trillion. And this is the single largest contraction in more than a century. Simply put, the figures surrounding the pandemic are quite astonishing. And although we're now hearing good news regarding vaccines, particularly here in the UK, that will hopefully allow us to emerge from the crisis, the impact is likely to affect our lives for many years to come, and possibly many generations. If we now focus on some of the core industry sectors that have been hit hardest by this pandemic, we can find that the figures are no less disturbing. With travel bans that were introduced very early in the pandemic, the aerospace industry was hit very hard. Approximately with an overall 60% reduction in air travel, which has resulted in over $391 billion loss to the airline industry, and knock-on effects obviously to the wider aerospace industry as well, with being a large 14% drop in business, equivalent to $50 billion. This has forced many organizations to make large reductions and hard decisions about their workforces. For example, Rolls-Royce announced in the summer that it would be axing 9,000 jobs, which is equivalent to about 20% of their overall global workforce. The automotive industry has not fared much better, with new car sales dropping a staggering 97% in April alone, compared to the previous years. On average, most OEMs have had to close their car plants for around 11 weeks, and even now, they're still only operating at around 70% capacity. And this has led to huge uncertainty across the industry, with around 1 in every 6, equivalent to about 1.3 million auto workers worldwide, at risk, or if not already, being made redundant. The cost of this to the automotive supply chain is still being calculated, but it's likely to be even more serious. Even in the construction market, we're seeing global drops in the order of about $650 billion. And this is estimated to be about 28% of all projects globally, either delayed or stopped completely, leading to around 40% of all construction firms having to consider laying off staff. Even the energy industry has not been immune to this. Being hardest hit by the global travel bans and lockdowns, oil revenues have dropped by about 85% in some territories, resulting in a huge slump in oil price, and many companies such as BP and Shell announcing large redundancies and reductions in global workforce. So this is the doom gloom picture, but as we emerge from this pandemic, these problems are not simply just going to vanish. And in fact, it's widely recognized that things will not go back exactly as they were before. So there is now an increasing need to adopt new ways of working to mitigate these challenges that we're now all facing. There are a number of common problems that will continue to affect all of these sectors for many months and years ahead. And this includes the downturn in business, which, while demand should increase, it's likely to be slow. And in the meantime, companies will need to continue to deal with reduced demand globally, reduced investment in growth, and in fact, and also dealing with the fact that many economies around the world are facing serious recession. We also have to cope with workplace closures, and increasingly so now with the talk of even more lockdowns coming post-Christmas. And although we may no longer need these going much further into the future, it's becoming clear that working from home will continue to be a new normal for many office environments. And this means businesses must adapt to distributed workforces and deal with the new challenges, such as maintaining morale and motivation, team spirit, organizing and running effective meetings with distributed teams, as well as training, onboarding, and upskilling staff who are working from home. Manufacturing disruption is another big challenge. The impact on manufacturing companies is likely to be felt for many years, and the redesign of factories that traditionally have densely packed workforces, they need to accommodate new health and safety guidelines. They also have to deal with the massive disruption to their supply chains caused by the lack of supply and demand, and so many smaller suppliers going out of business. And while factories may no longer be forced to have further closures, getting the remaining staff back to work and training them on new processes, understanding to wash their hands, keep socially distant, and also understand how to separate themselves in the workforce will take time and will cost money. However, these challenges will need to be met without causing too much more damage to the existing industry and more delays. Now I'm going to invite my colleague from HTC, Brett, to talk a bit more about the impact of COVID and how it's given rise to an interesting increase in the adoption of visualization and VR technology, which has led to a widespread deployment of new business processes representing the new normal. So I'll now hand over to Brett, who can take it from here.
I appreciate that. Thanks, John. And it's nice to meet everybody today. So some of you might be familiar with HTC from our work within the wireless space, where we pioneered several new technologies, including launching the first Android phone. We launched the first Windows phone, and maybe even as far back as the first PDA to market with the compact iPac. I mentioned this past not in an attempt to get you to ditch your beloved iPhone, but to speak to the fact that we're a company that's very familiar with change, and we embrace it and we continue to thrive amidst it today. So within the past 5 years, we've gone from introducing the first room scale virtual reality headset to creating complete VR solutions dedicated to meeting the needs of the largest enterprises of today. All right. So John, if you can move that move the slide along. So what we've seen here during COVID-19 is that in just a few months' time, the COVID-19 crisis has brought about years of change in the way that companies in all sectors, in all regions, are doing business. So what the chart reflects here, and that's the notes in blue, is we're speaking to the largest investment in growth is being seen. The areas of organizational adoption and ensuring that teams have the means of not only maintaining productivity, but also increasing it. And that's a report that came through via McKinsey. So what we've seen is, during this is we've seen an increase in remote working and collaboration. So we've also seen an increase in advanced use of technologies through operations, and as well as an advanced increase in technologies helping to with decision making. And finally, there's been an increase in spending on data security. So with that being said, that actually is kind of an introduction into our Vive Pro Secure headset. So John, if you could continue to move the slide along. So as we've seen this, we've seen the adoption playing out across a variety of use cases. Some companies primarily for a single use, and others adopting VR for multiple applications. Like I said, so we've seen it in a number of different use cases. Everything from working from your home or corporate office, controller interactions, on-site training, design collaboration. These are all different topics that VR headsets and the use cases that we've seen have really kind of popped up to the forefront. So John, next up would be, so this is really kind of the introduction for our Vive Pro I and our Vive Pro Secure. So within the Vive Pro I itself is, so there's really I call it, there's 8 different topics for where this really hits. First of all, within the Vive Pro I are the use of the precision eye tracking. So being able to gain expanded analytics behind the eyeball, see where things are looking, where the eye is tracking. One popular use case for this would be, the training in design and simulation. If you were to put a pilot in there and you'd want to have your really granular information about where the eyes are looking while they're in flight, those are all types of the analytics that we were able to pull off of the Vive Pro I. In addition to that, you get things like foveated rendering, simplified input and navigation, and then not to mention, between the resolution and the room scale capabilities, I think the Vive Pro I really kind of stands out in a class of its own. Okay. So next up, John, on the following slide would be our secured deployment, or our classified. And what that refers to is VR usage in an environment where radios are strictly forbidden. The default position is that anything that can transmit can be a threat. And to get to these locations, the equipment needs the authority to operate, and that will only happen if those components are physically deactivated. The problem was that each Vive component has one or more radios and also cameras and microphones, but requests for a solution continued to increase, and it was clear that it was a problem worth solving. So with that in mind, what we did is we actually introduced the Vive Pro Eye. So John, that'd be the following slide. Yep, should be, yep, right there. And so, so this is a product that is exclusive to P&Y, and there's nothing else like it in the market. There are a number of requirements that will keep it that way for a while. So they saw the benefit of a VR collaboration, shortened design cycles, development cost savings, and we are sidelined for security reasons. Some took drastic steps to modify on their own, and that was inexpensive and avoided the warranty and impacted performance. So what we have here is the Vive Pro Secure, which offers hardware, software, and documentation, all with security in mind. So with that in mind, I'll pass it back to John. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. With any questions, I'd be more than happy to follow up at the conclusion of the webinar.
Okay, thanks, Brett. That's really helpful. So as you can see, our partners are delivering some really fantastic technology for virtual reality and immersive visualization. And we at Virtalis are integrating this technology with our unique software and also our expert professional services to deliver high-value solutions to address the challenges and place visualization right at the heart of your organization. Our unique software solutions, some of you will be familiar with, a Visionary Render, which is our low-code desktop application designed specifically for creating enterprise-scale visualizations quickly and easily. We also have GeoVisionary, our intuitive application for geoscientists to work and gain insight into very large, complex data sets. And most recently, we've introduced Virtalis Reach. This is our latest flagship product for cloud-based collaborative visualization, supporting enterprise-scale visualization anywhere, anytime, across a whole range of devices. Our experienced professional services team designs and builds solutions that are a perfect blend of software and systems that meet our customers' requirements. We deliver a full range of facilities from simple single or multi-tracked HMD collaborative spaces, sometimes we call these holodecks, to complex multi-walled, fully immersive cave environments, which we call our active cubes. Over the years, we've built a solid reputation for creating high quality and robust visualization solutions that deliver real value to our customers. So building on the experience and expertise of Virtalis and our partners, how can some of the specific challenges that we listed earlier be overcome and be addressed within this COVID pandemic? Taking that first challenge that we listed, how do we identified earlier, that the downturn in business as a result of reducing demand and investment, how are companies supposed to improve their business process to ensure they continue to grow and survive? As highlighted in the McKinsey report that Brett showed earlier, businesses are eager to find ways to streamline their processes. So they need much more efficiency and cost-effective processes. Additionally, there is an inevitable need to reduce overheads and create less physical waste. This means working with more virtual assets to save time and money. So there is now an urgent need to accelerate the adoption of digital technologies and platforms, including visualization and VR. Hence the reason we're seeing such a surge and uptake of that during the COVID pandemic. One area where this has been achieved is through increased use of virtual prototyping throughout the process, from concept all the way through to manufacture, and even into marketing and sales through the use of virtual product configurators. So let's take a look at an example of this now from one of our customers. Okay. In this example, we now see Visionary Render, and we see how it's being used to quickly create immersive visualization of complex products and systems at one of our customers, Raytheon. The software mimics the real world, so Raytheon have been able to introduce virtual designs not just for their engineers, but also for their operators, inspectors, and customers, all of whom are involved in the building of the products. The result is a different way of working that's more efficient and streamlined, leading to faster development and deployment processes. In particular, using virtual prototyping, Raytheon were able to reduce product development time by 25%, delivering design projects 45% faster and 40% under budget. Okay. The second challenge is to overcome the problems of workplace closures and disruptions. With offices forced to close during lockdown and many staff now working from home, this new normal looks set to stay with us for the foreseeable future. And while working remotely, staff still need to maintain an active presence in the organization, participating in regular meetings and contributing to the ongoing day-to-day activities, even if it is remotely or via video conference. In the industrial context, however, these meetings will often involve product designs, prototypes, or environments that need to be shared in order to make the decisions and resolve issues quickly. Often these assets can be quite large and complex, making it difficult to share them with remote participants in an efficient, secure way. This challenge can now be overcome with our latest product, Virtalis Reach, a cloud-based collaborative platform that places visualization right at the heart of the enterprise. Using this solution, 3D assets can be shared across enterprise anytime, anywhere, on a range of devices, from HMDs to tablets, and collaboration is always just one click away. The next demonstration we're going to show you gives a good example of the Reach platform in action. The engineers are sharing a virtual model of a chain heat treatment system. After an initial discussion, various experts are invited in to join the discussion in order to quickly identify a solution and agree an action plan. And remember, everything you're going to see here is being done remotely and in real time, with engineers joining from many different locations using a range of different devices, from HMDs to laptops to tablets. So I should just play that one now. Okay.
Following the input for the cold water, we're coming in from this part, and this is the new section here, is it?
Yeah, so this is the part we're expecting from our partner.
When are we getting the CAD for that?
Should be next week.
Right, okay. And are these pipes correct now for that new part, or is that for the old part?
No, that's for the new part, so this piping's all correct.
Right, okay, because we're missing an alignment here, aren't we? We're coming in too high.
Oh, yeah, we are. Those two flanges don't line up correctly.
Who designed the pipes? Can we get them in to
so that was
discuss?
Dave,
Can we adjust these to fit with the chiller?
Hopefully, I'll just invite Dave to see if he knows.
Hey Chris, hey Tim, how's it going?
Hi Dave.
Hello. So, question is, with the new pipe fitting coming in here, and these new pipes, we're coming in high on the chiller. Can we drop these pipes back, or will the new part, is that the reason we raised them up?
That is the reason why. The only issue is we had to do that because if we change the height of everything else, it'll be quite a lot of work to move all the pipe work in the rest of the system down, even if it's just a couple of inches. Do you know if it's possible to raise the chiller at all?
I don't offhand, Chris, do you know?
I don't, but let me see if Andy is available and bring him in. So send him a link. See if he joins.
Hello, Chris. You after me?
Hi, Andy. Yeah, we just got a bit of an issue with the alignment of the pipes to the chiller that you designed. Tim, do you want to explain it for him?
Yeah, so we've got the new part where the intersection comes in. As the pipe comes in, we're coming in high on the chiller here and on the return. So can we raise the chiller up to fit that? Because otherwise it's looking like we're going to have to do a lot of work on the pipes.
So here and through there, yeah. I should think so. Let me run some analysis. I'll get the results in the next couple of days and get them to you. but I think that should be okay. Is that all right?
Yep, no, that sounds fine to me.
Great.
Thanks,
No
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers
Talk to you
all.
again soon.
Okay. So as you can see, Virtalis Reach is a really powerful and effective tool for sharing visualization across an enterprise and supporting effortless remote working in the design and engineering process. However, there are still challenges resulting from workplace closures, specifically in keeping the distributed workforce fully trained on the latest products and processes, and also onboarding new staff remotely. The technology to undertake virtual training has actually been available for quite some time before COVID, but the possibility to deploy remote training anywhere at any time in the enterprise is now becoming a reality. Using both Visionary Render and Virtalis Reach provides the perfect platform for creating and distributing these realistic virtual environments for training for operators, engineers, suppliers, customers on any product or any process. So let's take a look at this now from another one of our customers. We have one, just open the video. There we go. Okay. So hopefully you can see this. I'll try to unmute myself this time. Okay. Okay. So in this demonstration, it provides a good example of virtual training with one of our customers, Vestas. In this example, the maintenance engineer is learning how to replace the pitch cylinder in the company's V90 wind turbine. The real maintenance work is performed on the turbine in situ at the top of a 100-meter utility pole. And so training in a non-hazardous virtual environment has already been performed prior to COVID, as it was generally safer, easier, and more cost-effective. The scenario that you can see here, see being demonstrated here, is developed on Visionary Render and guides the engineer through the correct procedure for disassembling, replacing, and reassembling the pitch cylinder. This type of training was performed in specific training facilities prior to COVID, but with the workplace closures, lockdowns, and stay-at-home orders, these types of central training facilities have also had to close. However, using the combination of Visionary Render and Virtalis Reach, it's now possible to distribute and share these training scenarios remotely to ensure engineers remain fully trained on the latest equipment and procedures. The real benefits of this type of training have already been reported by Vestas, including 40% faster learning, reduced training time by 30% from 13 weeks down to 9 weeks, and 85% better retention rate after 1 month, compared to 40% with traditional training methods. So it turns out it's not just safer, easier, and more cost-effective, it's also a much more effective training method. Just bring my slides back in. Okay. The third challenge that we listed was that we identified is the huge disruption in the manufacturing organizations and the processes involved there. With forced closures, affecting output and shift plans and social distancing on the shop floor, fluctuating demand in sensitive just-in-time networks, and unstable supply chains. To overcome these challenges, organizations are beginning to accelerate the introduction of technology to help them digitally plan and optimize the shop floors. The major contribution to the digitized process in this field is the introduction of what we call the virtual factory, a fully digital and virtual representation of the factory where new layouts and processes can be tested and optimized before being implemented on the real environment. Using Visionary Render, customers can create fully immersive virtual factories representing real or proposed manufacturing facilities based on either BIM or CAD data. When coupled with input from a real factory via, for example, an IoT network capturing live data, this virtual model is brought to life as a real digital twin of the real factory, which can then be used to monitor operations, identify bottlenecks, and even diagnose problems in real time. These virtual models can be shared across the enterprise using Virtalis Reach to monitor operations remotely from anywhere, anytime, even down to the shop floor to support live inspections and maintenance. So the next example we're going to show is from one of our largest customers, a company called BAE, which many of you will be familiar with. Let me just get this. Okay, so this example is from one of our largest customers, as I say, BAE. You can see how the virtual factory gives the engineers a big picture view. So they can identify areas to improve efficiency, cut out waste, prevent problems in the physical world, allowing them to maintain flexibility and productivity despite ongoing disruptions in the supply chain. Working this way has not only allowed them to adapt to current challenges, but also to reduce snagging lists on many new cell designs by up to 90%. And specifically, they've reported over 300K in savings just in one plant optimization case alone in virtual factory. And they've managed to halve the development time for new production processes from 24 months down to 12 months. So hopefully these demonstrations I've been showing are giving you a really good example of how virtual reality is now helping to tackle the challenges of the COVID crisis, and particularly as shown in the McKinsey report at the beginning by Brett, why VR is now being accelerated in terms of its deployment in the industry. So in summary, in what we've shown you today, we've reviewed the impact of COVID pandemic globally and across the key sectors. We've identified the key challenges that are now facing the industry as they emerge from this pandemic. And we've shown how accelerating the adoption of virtual reality can help tackle many of these challenges and address them. We've also shown a number of demonstrations to highlight the benefits that this brings to our existing customers and could bring to you as well. So we'd now like to take some time to answer any questions you may have. Obviously, remember that you need to enter those questions into the question box at the side. I think I'll hand over back to Ketan now to moderate that discussion.
Hi, thank you, John. Thank you, Brett. I think it's a really good webinar to really describe the power of VR and visualization, especially in this pandemic, and how some of the customers that we have are actually adopting the solutions to use, especially for design reviews and training. So thank you for that. So a few questions, which are some really nice questions. I think the first one for you, John.
Okay.
Can the VR platform be used in the supply chain?
Of course, yes. It can be used, and in fact is being used in a number of different supply chains with our customers. So examples include allowing for collaborative design reviews between suppliers and OEMs, and also in understanding and communicating difficulties in the supply chain in terms of disruption across the process as well. So yeah, we have a number of OEMs and their supply chains using the VR technology. And in fact, supply chain is probably the area where accelerated adoption has become much more widespread, simply because they are the ones hardest hit in many cases. And we're seeing a lot of shutdowns to those who are not agile enough to adopt to these new practices.
Brilliant. I've got another question for you as well. So does the VR collab work when different users are on a work VPN?
Does the collaborative VR system in terms of Virtalis Reach, will it work over a VPN? I believe so. I would need to understand a little more about the details of the network to be able to answer in exact detail. But yes, in theory, yes, it should work over a VPN.
Yeah, and we can also mention that, you know, with Virtalis Reach, you can use it anywhere, at any place, at any time, on all different types of devices as well, especially the Vive Pro, which we've tested on, and it's a great product for collaboration. Okay, some more questions are all coming in now. Okay, this one's for Brett. What is the availability of the Vive Pro Secure now? There's a lot of defense people on this call now, so this is a great question for them.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so PNY is our distributor, and we do have limited inventory available as of today.
Brilliant. Okay. Question: what are the technical requirements for using your solution?
I'm sorry, is that going to me?
Oh no, that would be for John. Sorry.
Okay.
The technical requirements for using our solution. So in terms of the hardware requirements, the Virtalis render has, Visionary render has a specific hardware spec. We needed a decent workstation with a decent graphics card to be able to run on that. There is detail. We can give you more precise details of that as a follow-up if required. For Virtalis Reach, you will require if you're going to host the cloud-based service yourself, you would need a server that is able to run. There's again a minimum specification that we have for that. In order to visualize or share, access the visualizations that are being shared from the hub, there is no specific specification. You just need a device that's capable of supporting a browser with WebXR. And as long as you can access that web link and your device supports WebXR, then you should be able to access the visualization remotely from wherever you are. And there is no need to install a license on that device. You just need access to the link and it will download and run on your machine. The geometry itself, the model itself, is not being downloaded to your device. Our hub is using intelligent rendering, which will just stream, it will send just the polygons, just the data that's needed to render the view you're currently looking at. Beyond that, every time you view, it will give you another optimized set of triangles to draw. So it will take into account the capabilities of your device and only send data that you need to be able to see the model you're working with. So it's highly optimized. It's very simple to use. It's just a click away.
Great. So I've got another question. I guess we can, Brett, you can answer this first and then John second. It's how have you seen the uptake in VR in visualization in the current pandemic?
Yeah, so we've seen a great adoption of VR within the enterprise during the pandemic. I mean, certainly from an employee training standpoint, we're simply just because you're not able to get everybody in the same room to be able to train at the same time, but also you need to be able to acquire data and analytics and ascertain a better understanding of how they are absorbing the material. So that's from an employee's training standpoint. From a design and collaboration, what we've seen is we're working with a number of manufacturing companies that where they've been able to reduce their design costs. They're not cutting metal anymore, and if you're off by an inch or just the slightest of slight bits, you've got to essentially recut whatever the product is again. So the design times and it's also the cost have come way down with the implementation of virtual reality.
John?
Yeah, we're similar. We're seeing a similar uptake in VR. There's a lot of interest now from companies that weren't interested. Well, I would say weren't interested, but we're pushing back plans to do things. They're now accelerating the adoption of this technology because they're finding they have to. There's no choice. The need to work more efficiently, the need to bring in new processes to be able to support remote working in an effective way. And like I said a little earlier, it's not just being able to do video conferencing, it's not just being able to have the discussions, but you also need to be able to share the assets. You need to be able to have those virtual prototypes, those models, those environments that you're testing and building. They need to be present in that discussion as well. And so this is why we've got a lot of people now looking at and working with Reach. So yeah, we're seeing this similar sort of uptake. It's with this COVID pandemic.
Okay. Another question. How are people dealing with not going into the offices, design centers, or institutions whilst using the cave or power walls? How are they now adapted?
Okay. Who's that to? Is that to me?
Yeah, that's you, John. And then
okay. Okay, so I think, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, we have a lot of customers who've invested heavily in large, complex, large scale, I would say, high quality virtual reality suites and facilities over the years. And obviously with the lockdown, they're kind of gathering dust somewhat, because you can't get everyone into these big facilities so easily over this time. That will change and things will start to open up again, obviously. But in the meantime, this is why we believe that the Virtalis Reach product is very timely, because we've brought it out just at a point where, the organizations that have these big facilities are looking for a technology to overlay on top of those facilities to continue to share and continue to work with these big complex models, but do so with people working from home. And so with Reach, the various different collaborators, the various different participants can simply join from whatever device they're on. And so regardless of whether they can get into work and stand in front of that big stereo screen, they can still join in the conference. They can still understand. As we showed with the video, with the 4 or 5 people interacting and sharing, that was all done dynamically. There was no one person people weren't sharing a physical space. They were just sharing that virtual space and still having that level of dynamic discussion that you would have in a regular office, where you might pull people into the cave to discuss various things. So we're giving them that option to move from not just having the cave option or having the big visualization screen, but also having the option to be able to access those shared assets from the cloud and from their own platforms. So we do think they'll come back into these centers because they're very high quality and they deliver a very immersive experience. But in the meantime, we can still give them the technology to work effectively and productively.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've come up to our kind of last question. There are a lot more questions coming in. What we'll do, we'll pick those up after the webinar. We'll send them across to John and Brett so they can pick them up personally, and we'll get in touch to either connect and answer those questions. John, if we can go on to the next slide.
Sure. There we go.
Great. So if anybody on the call, of course, is interested in what VR would mean for you, we can definitely share some ideas. I'm sure Brett and John have got some great ideas what they can show you and what the current clients are doing currently in the pandemic. And all you need to do is get in contact with myself. My email address is on that page. And we can give you a tailored demo, and we've only given you a percentage of what Virtalis Reach Visually Render can do using immersive technologies like the HTC Vive. So we can give you a tailored demo. All you need to do is kind of connect with me, connect with John and Brett, and we can give you that demo. Please stay in tune with our community. You can follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on our LinkedIn company page, where we can provide lots of content that we produce on a daily basis. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and we've got some great YouTube videos where we provide our solutions. I would like to thank everybody for attending today. It was a brilliant webinar, and thank you for John Maxfield and our guest, Brett Sollers. Any last words, guys?
No, thank you very much, everyone. Just like to say, yeah, thank you for attending, and hopefully stay well, stay safe, and goodbye from myself.
Yep. John, Keith, it was a pleasure to present with you guys. Thank you to everybody who attended, and I'll echo the same sentiments. Stay safe, stay healthy, and if there's anything that we can do to help, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.